All right, welcome to I believe our 7th episode of Coffee and Code. And hopefully I won't jinx it by saying, seven's a lucky number, so it will be the worst one. No. And of course, if it's not a really good Coffee and Code, you'll never see it anyway. So, so I hope that it's really great to have, which we always do, is invite our MVPs into the session to have a nice conversation, and then we record it. And then we, make it. I create a little blog, and I embed the blog in the post and do a little summary, and then people can watch it at their leisure. What's different about this session is, well, a couple things. One, we had a session at Summit this year, and unfortunately, we didn't get a lot of people attend because it was the last session of the day, and people were tired. Or they just didn't care, perhaps. But hopefully it was the former, not the latter. But what was really cool is we had Derek Eldridge, who's with us today again, who was the main driving force behind the project, because he came to us and asked and say, hey, we really would love you guys to help us with this, and so on and so forth. And it was great having you, Derek. You may want to just go ahead and repeat you reaching out to Acumatica and give a little background for people.
I'll be happy to. So thanks for the introduction. It was back about January, February of 2020 when I reached out to Kim Plank, which was we dealt with quite a bit as being a MVP marketing, and said, hey, we got a real problem coming up. We're a critical infrastructure supplier, and we put people in about 46 states last year, and I got to know that these people are safe and where they've been and what they're up to. And right now, we had started out where we were calling all of our 35 technicians every day and just asking them, hey, did you take your temperature? Are you okay? Did you get exposed, and where you been? And we were logging that. And then we kind of went to an Excel sheet, and I just called her up and said, I really need a solution here that I can keep track of and make sure my team is safe and keeping other people safe, so we can get around and make sure that these hospitals and utilities and data centers are still up and running to help keep everybody else safe. And I got a real problem, though. I have no money. I have no budget for it. And I have a really big need. And the Acumatica team, so she reached out, talked to I think it was a Joy at the time, and then and they said, man, we got the perfect group for this MVP group. And they just came together, put together a call, and came up with an idea that was even better than I thought it would ever be, where we could put this whole survey system in where we go out and it send out an electronic deal to the guy's phone every single day, and they'd log in and they would answer the 4 questions we were answering, and then it logged everything into our system, so we knew that they were good. And then at any time after that, it would ping out to their direct supervisor if they answered a question, that had raised a level of concern, so we could immediately respond to their need. And it was heartwarming to me to see a company and a group of individuals that I didn't know at the time, that I've since got to know, just care as much about our people and our employees as we did. And it was real impactful for us, and we were like really ahead of the game as a company, and then as Acumatica, on what you could do. I've seen that some companies like Instacart and some other companies kind of quickly mimicked the success that you guys had put together so quickly, so early in the COVID response. So just a heartfelt, thank you to all of you guys. I mean, it was really amazing. I'm just still in awe, and I really love to see and hear the directions, because I think the survey has a life of its own, and as soon as it's going to be adopted into the natural code, I guarantee it.
Yep, yep. So before, and I usually don't do slides, but I want to acknowledge the team just so everyone knows who contributed to this. So this is my slide from before on the project, but I want to get to the team. So the main team that contributed to this, you can see Robert Waite, he's on the call. I believe Yuri's on the call. Harsha, Stefan, Marco, have been the main people who've been working on this, and especially Stefan Lele. I mean, he just took this to a new level, and we can talk about that a little bit as we talk, as Stefan shares some of his lessons learned and what we've been able to accomplish. But also, I want to acknowledge, Darren, who really when we first started, he did most of the heavy lifting to get the project off the ground, and so I don't think he's on the call, but I always want to show my love to Darren for his work besides the current team members. But Darren's in the background. We still use him as quote an advisor, and he's one of our brilliant developers at Acumatica, who's been a long-time employee. And then we had Chris Hargrove, another MVP, who is an important member in the beginning, but has since stepped away from the project. But I just always like to give credit to the team. So that's all the slides. I just wanted to, you can see their faces. I wanted to make sure that everyone, gets the credit they absolutely deserve on the project, and heartfelt thank you from me, and obviously from Derek, who's the primary beneficiary of the hard work that everyone put forth.
Yes.
So just keep the conversation going, and I'll try not to talk too much, but we've gone through, we're currently trying to get that last mile of phase 3 finished, and we have just one little roadblock that we have, and we're really close to solving it, and then we'll be able to actually, Harsha and his company is going to test it, and then once he goes through, Derek, if you're interested in testing, which I think you are, we can throw it to you and others to test, and also we plan to use it internally at Acumatica as well. So that's the plan, at least. So what I'd like to do is just sort of ask some questions of the people that are here around it. I know, Robert, I want to turn to you first, because you were important in the beginning. You did a lot of architectural work along with Harsha, who put a lot of work in, really program managing this in the beginning, and has a lot of experience with his customers and so forth. And you two were very important in the beginning, and then we had some internal dialogue discussion about where it was going in phase 3. So Robert, I just want to kind of get some thoughts from you about the project, what it's meant to you, some of the struggles, and where you see it going and so forth.
Sure. Yeah, like you said, I was there since the beginning. I remember that call that I got from you very early on in 2020 when COVID was reaching its spike here in the New York area. It was just a hot mess in the area. So I was home quarantining, and I didn't have anything to do. So I was absolutely delighted to have an opportunity to work with the caliber of developers that we have on there, just like being able to work with Chris, Harsha, and Darren, and Chris Hargrove. It was just an amazing experience. But it was, I was really honored to be a part of this project, because it had a lot of meaning, being able to help companies process through the CDC guidelines to survey employees and just do something about the problem. It had a lot of special meaning to me to be a part of that. Yeah, so I took on some architectural stuff, data design stuff. I worked with Chris Hardgrove on it, and we turned out phase 1 really quick, and then phase 2 was more so just kind of enhancing phase 1 a little bit. One of the glaring problems, though, with the first 2 phases is you have to have a login for somebody to be able to take that survey. And we wanted to get to the point of being able to have anonymous surveys where you don't have to give any sort of credentials to get into your ERP in any way, shape, or form. So the idea at first was to utilize portal, the customer portal, to be able to do this. And I had this idea in the back of my mind that was actually inspired from our 2020 hackathon entry. We had this toggle integration, and we had these little simple links that we would use to toggle time and track the amount of time that you spend on certain tasks and whatnot. And we utilized webhooks to be able to do that. And we had a very simple user interface just using straight up HTML and HTML5. So the idea of where we're bringing webhooks or where we're bringing phase 3 stemmed from that and grew from that. It was quite a challenge getting traction from other developers on going in that direction. I think it was Harsha that I convinced first. I don't know. I think Marco was jumping on at that. I
was on board from the start.
I think you were definitely the first on there. You were on board from the start because you had done that. There was another session, I think the DevCon session, DevCon, yeah, and you did a session on webhooks. So I knew you were going to be like the first to jump on board. Harsha came on shortly after that, Giri, and the hardest was convincing some of the other Acumatica employees that we should go that route because they kind of had a say in the direction. Like we kind of looked to them as like the decision makers on the process. So it took some persuading but at the end we inevitably went with the webhooks because the ideas that we had with doing it through portal was we had some ideas on how to allow for anonymous usage, but it kind of uncovered some security stuff that's now being addressed and whatnot.
And it was actually a good discussion because it was not only like brainstorming on that part, but actually that derived into conversations with teams inside Acumatica. Didn't actually took the question right into other groups, and they needed to check different things before arriving at the final decision and the direction with webhooks. Yeah,
I've got a little experience working with. Go ahead.
Sorry. I remember we also even exposed some potential security vulnerabilities which were addressed after such conversation.
Yeah. So one of our ideas in terms of using the customer portal, we had a little workarounds that we discovered that we would be able to potentially use to grant that. But once we circulated the 2 options around and Deeran brought it to the engineering team, they looked at it and they said, we got to patch this up and make this more secure. One of the reasons too that I wanted to avoid using customer portal is it having a little bit of experience working with it. It's quite challenging and to work with, and I know that's been in previous discussions as well, that So I just wanted to try to avoid that altogether. So the idea was we would use like straight up HTML, use webhooks, because, and the idea was counterintuitive as well, because webhooks is mainly geared towards receiving data, not necessarily serving HTML, but you just have a basic request response happening in there that you can, in theory, host HTML responses. And right around the time that we were throwing out these options, Stefan jumped on board. So like I definitely went to him to try to persuade him with the webhooks idea. And Stefan just brought a lot of ideas to the table to really bring it above and beyond the ideas that I had. The ideas that I had and the architecture that I was going for is much simpler than what we have now. But Stefan really architectured like some really neat stuff. I'm very impressed, and at this point he's the star of the show, and he's making phase 3 really happen, and I'm more or less kind of helping out at this point. We're all very grateful for him and his efforts, and Marco as well. He's been a heavy lifter in terms of phase 3, and I think it's gonna be really awesome. You know, yeah. It's really taking shape, and one of the reasons, like around the time when phase 3 also started coming to fruition, I was completely ramfeasled with my job, the day job at that point. So I had a lot of work that needed to get done by the time Summit arrived. We had a whole AP initiative that we needed to pull together, and so I really couldn't contribute all that much back at that point, and I almost dropped out of surveys. I told Mark that like I don't have the time for this at this point. And he convinced me to stay on board, and I'm glad he did. And he just said, well, just hang out for a little bit, be an advisor role, whatever, in terms of your contributions. And now that Summit's over, I'm helping out a little bit more. Yeah. But I think that's it. I'll probably think of some other points to discuss.
Yeah, I'd like to hear from Harsha next before we move on to some of the other guys. Harsha, if you can give us your perspective. You know, you're a business owner. You have your own product. You have a set of customers and stuff. So you obviously work as a business owner and working directly with customers. A lot of different experience. You have some developer skills and so forth. You seem to when you do join the hackathon, usually the ideas you have and the teams you're on do really well, just like Darren. So it's really great having you on the team as well, and I'm very pleased with your role as an advisor and someone that really heavy lifting in the beginning and doing demos, and I always appreciate the work that you do. But I would love to really hear some comments from you and perspective that you bring to the table.
Absolutely. So I have probably another 20-30 minutes and I'll jump off, but kind of wanted to share with the MVP team here in the Coffee and Code is get involved, and then there could be an idea, there could be an opportunity. Just always wait for that. As Robert was saying, we are here to solve the problem, and I think this happened to all of us. March, April. That's when Derek reached out, and one led to another, and Ali reached out, and Ajoy and yourself reached out, Mark, and I was waiting to say, what can I do in code? Like, is there anything that I can do to help, right? And this came in really on time, and I said, oh great, we can put together a solution. And since I worked with attributes, we said, we can ask questions right there. So that's where we started off in the phase 1. I call the phase 1, since it's coffee and code session, I want to use this theme of coffee. So we said let's serve regular coffee, right? Phase 1. So the phase one is just the regular coffee beans, as everyone highlighted that we wanted to do a survey quickly and through mobile phone, right? And then the iteration of going through that. It wasn't like one idea was better than the other. It is an iteration process. So when you go through this agile process, always the next one will be the best one, right? Phase one, and then of course you could actually visit my blog. I want to just quickly share my screen here. So here's a blog article that we wrote, making up COVID-19 wellness project, and that's what we started that out. And then it talks about how we really put together the team, a CRT, it's a response team, and how we designed this and why we designed it and what was the hurdle we went through as part of the phase one. And obviously Derek played an important role in getting us up and running and testing it and using it for their operations, which was a good thing, because I always want to build something when somebody is ready to use it, right? That's the beauty of it, because you can really touch a lot of things. You can touch lives, you can touch, it's been your solution's been touched by somebody, right? So definitely, if you have time, go through this. And me and Mark put together a video presentation, and that was phase one. And then phase two iteration was more like, hey, how do I solve the other problem, right? Obviously, we had a documentation going on, which is something I want to kind of share with you all, that this is really important. It may not look that, but if you look back now, you can see the evolution of how this happened, right? Simple workflow system resulted into a step 2 of the phase 2, and then literally the phase 3, which I call, since it's a coffee and code theme, I call Stefan coming in, got the French vanilla beans, right?
Especially since he's French Canadian.
Beans, and it was roasted medium roast. It was
much
not easy.
Stronger French
very
roast
strong,
is
and
stronger.
very strong though, from Stefan being very strong. And I was kind of like, well, I do need to change the whole structure again. But that's the good thing about it. We had to, and Stefan had to kind of prove himself that this is the idea, and I think it was well received. And obviously the webhooks was brewing on the side, right? But then I knew that, if we open up that means you could have unlimited responses. And then the question came up was the licensing. Is it even thought of? So I think we looped Dhiren and Ali and everyone else to get that permission. So I think that worked out well. So the version 3 definitely is where we are in terms of the templates and how do we make a template. And we already had the concept of, this is what I wanted the output to look like. So I'll show you some of the examples we had, what we want the template survey to look like. This should be the final goal. And where Stefan came in was, he broke down into components, and that really is going to help a lot, because people can now do it. So the next step is to kind of do another iteration of how can we make it user friendly, that anybody, which is an HR department, a support manager, a sales manager, can start a survey and ask a question. So ultimately, now we reach to the point where, after all these templates, we come to a point where it's going to look much more like this, right? So it could be anybody using the system. There were not many people who saw in the webinar or in the Acumatica Summit, but don't worry, Mark. Once we release this, I'm looking forward to doing the beta testing for myself, for my own company. We use Acumatica in the back end. We have a support portal, and I want to use, again, I can call myself guinea pig. I want to use that and kind of use the survey in real time. And if that looks good, then Derek, we will pass that out to your team. We'll enable you first, and then a couple of other customers who are willing to join the beta program. And once that's launched, then I think it will open up a lot of people's, the parachute of their mind, saying, wow, this could be done with Acumatica, and it's a community project. It costs you nothing. So that's in a nutshell how the program evolved. So an idea can come from anybody in any direction. If its idea is good, then stay through it, like Stefan, and you might bring in some coffee beans that may be even more flavorful. So right?
Well, we need. I'm a coffee drinker, but I like lots of sugar and cream. So bells and whistles.
Yeah.
I think that looks beautiful, man. I mean, we're going to put SurveyMonkey out of business.
That's the point. Is just to take the monkey out of this business and put in.
Yeah.
So
Awesome.
right now we have like a couple of components, but the idea is that we could have different pieces that you mix and match to build your own surveys. And well, I think the only thing that would be part of like the next level will be some kind of visual designer, right, to make it even more user friendly.
Create more components, more visualizations.
Yeah.
Right.
So Stefan, since I'm sure people have been waiting with bated breath, as they say, to hear from you, because I asked you to join the team because I was very impressed with you when I first met you, and you did one of our presentations a couple summits ago with some work with one of your customers. Yes. Who I'd known who had been on a hackathon, and you did a joint presentation with him, and I was really struck with how articulate you were and knowledgeable, because I also noticed that when we had the Ask Mike Anything session, you asked a lot of very important questions. You were able to answer people's questions, and so I'm like, I got to get this. First of all, I recruited you to be an MVP for that reason too. Yeah. But when we were looking, when Robert had to peel off and things were waning a bit, I came to you, practically begged you. I don't know if I really begged you, but I really wanted you to join. And I know it was a challenge for you in a way, still remains, because you decided to start your own business essentially too. Yes. I mean, you worked as a consultant, but you also, you were in the middle, if I'm not mistaken, correct me, you were in the middle of building this new business and hiring people, and it was, and so to actually take this on during a critical, it was a
pivotal moment, and so I guess that was part of it, right? So becoming an MVP was one thing, and starting the business is another thing, but I think they go hand in hand, and also being an MVP is just the beginning of something. Also, it's not because you're an MVP, you know everything, and there's so much to learn. And by the way, thanks Robert for the introduction. Robert, challenge us. For example, webhooks. I know they existed, but I didn't really dare to look at them and see how they were working yet, because we had very few examples that were available. And so Robert went that way, and I was very happy that I started to use them, because now, and like you mentioned, typically it's to receive data, but now we were using it as a web server essentially, right? So I think it's gonna push the envelope for us developers to start using more and more of this technology that is available to us, and being part of this initiative. I think it forces us to go beyond what we know and brings us outside of our comfort zone. And I think it just brings positive to it, right? So, like I said, being an MVP is just the beginning of the adventure, right? Working with other people, challenging them, they challenge you and say, what about this? What about this? What about that? And Harsha would bring in his ideas from the functional standpoint, and we would go with our technical, ideas and stuff like that. So I think when you bring all that together, this is where something great emerges. So.
Yeah, it was really the perfect storm, really, where we had a customer reach out to us who had a need. We had COVID, we're in this pandemic, and people were like trying to figure this out, what to do. How do we make it safe for employees to go out and be able to let our customers know that we're actually care about, we don't want to infect you. We're actually monitoring our employees and through this survey mechanism that we built, and it's a very impactful thing. So it was this perfect storm, and then I think full circle with Derek, his testimony around was inspiring and helpful for him to come to us and to have Acumatica respond in such a way that was impactful for Derek, his employees, and also his customers, and then to be able to hear that from Derek. For the developers who hardly ever get to hear directly from the mouth of the customer, the appreciation for the work you do is very powerful.
And I agree with Irek. I mean, the survey, I think, is here to stay, and it will become part of the platform. And if we get other people to, so I think it's here to stay, and it's going to be used for many purposes besides just pure survey per se. But
segues into kind of like where we'd like to see it go in the future.
Yeah,
the idea that okay, you can survey people, right? Get information from people. And we also learned in the session, there were people saying, hey, how can this be a forms engine? Why can't it be just a checklist? Service person goes out there and, he or she has to do, 10 things or whatever it is, 100 things, it doesn't matter. And they check things off of what they checked and so forth. And it's just a form, because a survey is just a form, but not only
survey is a form, yeah.
Yeah, but not only human beings, but what about machines? What about devices? You can query devices and get information from them. Like one of the things that would be cool if we could do in the future with Derek, because you have these smart processors on these battery systems, because you do these power backup stuff. Why not be able to survey your customers' equipment and do health checks remotely, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so we could use this framework to do that. And of course, that gets Robert's juices really flowing, because Robert's like the IoT. He's the IoT. Like the last couple of years, he shows up at the hackathon with like a bag full or a box full of devices, smart devices, and Raspberry Pi and so forth and so on. Yeah. So Robert.
Jared was busting my chops and he's, are you ever going to do a hackathon that's not IoT centric? But yeah, that definitely always keeps my interest in this, and I think I'll be in it till the end, because I really want to see IoT stuff interfaced in here. So I mean, we have the architecture for a collector entity. Like that collector entity can be something that represents a IoT unit of some sort, and that in Derek's world, that would be the health of a battery system, and being able to respond to metrics that would be indicative of something needing service, and automating that response. I really like to see where going that way.
Yeah, so we'll definitely that'll be like another project, of course, because it's because it's taking it to another dimension. But Marco, I just want to turn to you and Yuri quickly as well, to give you both a chance to provide any commentary, feedback, or where you just provide your perspective too, because I know, Marco, you during all this you had a new family member join you. You had a baby boy. Was it a baby boy?
Yes, a baby boy.
Yes, a baby boy joined. So that has its own unique challenges, right? It's almost like starting your own company.
Yeah.
From a time-wise perspective and challenges. So I'd love to hear from you as well.
Well, what I really liked about this project, and it's all the conversations, the different discussions that we had regarding like the direction we were going, the technologies, how to solve problems. Even when we tackled one design or architecture idea, just two or more came up that we needed to decide if that's going to be for an next version or something that's just useful for any other, right? Just talking about the evolution of the surveys module. We've been working, well, initially with the mobile notifications, right? Then we started using webhooks. Then when Stefan proposed his modular idea of having components and having being able to render those, that brought up a lot of new things that we can do with the framework, right? We learned about templating and that tool that's
Scribon.
Scriban, right? Then all the generic extensions that would help us basically link surveys to any entity in Acumatica, so that open up basically the value that surveys add to the platform as a whole. It's not some just isolated survey, but you can link it to the process engine, right? So all those things really add up, and I would encourage anyone learning about this to really like look at these videos and the presentations and all the different bits and pieces that we've been building into the module, because there's a lot of things that you can learn from using here. It's helpful even for the MVP community of take advantage of the technology that's available in Acumatica, and I mean we can at least give you like tips of things that we've learned during this process.
Yeah. Plus it's open source, so up on GitHub you can look
exactly.
at all the source code. So one thing that developers love, and correct me if I'm wrong, is sample code. A starting point, right? If it's up there, grab the code and you can start playing with it and use it. So that's the other advantage, is that you can review the code and see how we did the things we did, and it gives you an opportunity to learn. And then of course we want people to extend it as well. So Yuri, you're another team member that I wanted to tap into to get some thoughts around.
Yeah, so for me, it was kind of interesting experience. Like it was around, I believe, 2 a.m. of my time or 1 a.m. of my time when I get a message from Harsha, like, Yuri, do you have time? And I was like, okay, why not? I enjoyed very much being on hackathon with Harsha in one team. I was very happy, at least to say hi, if not more. And he started to talk to me about this project, about open source project. I was to some degree skeptic initially, but when I jumped on the call and I heard what is necessary to do, and then when we had another call, I believe on Friday, we discussed what kind of architecture to make, which way to go. I decided that I like this project very much, and I wanted to do something. Like I think that it is very urgent stuff, and that was one of the seldom cases when whole weekend I spent on coding. And when we had another call on Monday evening, when team seen what was possible to achieve in one weekend, everybody was impressed, and everybody, oh, okay, so it may work. Like such amount of scope may be done in so short amount of time. It means framework is very flexible. I believe we had at that time on the call Ali Jani and Ajoy, and they were impressed like by capabilities of framework. That one person in one, if one person in 1 weekend can build so much stuff, then if to put more brilliant minds, it can be really cool airplane. And after that, honestly speaking, I didn't have a good amount of time to follow everything what's going on, but want to share one more point. Recently, for one of the customers, we did some implementation, and basically I asked one of my developers to work on that. And Stefan, to your credit, that developer, he liked Scriban approach very much. He enjoyed with it. And also Stefan introduced like code reuse patterns, and that developer was like, when he looked on that, like I cannot, like his tears was very similar to tears of Derek of thankfulness.
Yeah. So not only the customer, but there's developers who were really thankful.
Yeah,
Awesome.
And that developer was like first time I see very well structured code of Acumatica. And,
thank you.
Yeah, it is very impressive.
Thank you.
And myself, I want to put some interesting parts of this survey project on my blog or for articles for Acumatica. port a site as well, but short time. It's always short time, but it has a lot of gems how to do something in Acumatica and how to do it well. So I just want to encourage everybody who considers himself as a brilliant Acumatica developer, take a look on those gems. You will find a lot of grains of wisdom there.
So at this point, we've taken up an hour, but I do want to give some of the people who aren't part of the team, who may have questions, be able to ask any questions of the team. Is there anyone out there that have any questions for the team?
Mark, may I add a couple more?
Oh, sure. You can have another minute or two.
So I just want to say thanks again for putting together this. But what we are talking about, the phase 4, what's the future, right? Is obviously, as you said, this is going to open up. We built a really good flat platform and engine which can deliver HTML content out and be able to harness the data back from the customers or vendors or suppliers or IoT devices or anything back into ERP. That lets people to analyze data with the other entities, whether it's customers, vendors, and inventory, anything of that sort. So this is a great opportunity if you're thinking about being part of the team. This will be a good time to jump, so you can extend it to a different level. What I want to say is, Stefan, I'm waiting for my coffee. I take cream and sugar. Give it to me next week, and I'm ready to do some beta testing, and we'll go from there. Okay.
Sure.
All right.
No problem. All right.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Bye, Harsha.
Yep. So does anyone have any questions or any comments at all that you want to add to the conversation before we close out?
Well, just a quick comment. Sorry, just a quick comment for the phase 4. I think the place where we should extend now that we're able to capture all these answers, I think it's the visualization of the results. I think it will be not only the visualization, so also the templates, how the survey looks, but also how we can visualize the answers and grasp information out of it rapidly.
Yeah, through the dashboard,
like dashboards or whatnot. But so I think we should use that data as much as possible and visualize it in an easy way for the user to gather information.
Yeah, I think Ali on our call that we had when we demoed, our progress with phase 3 a couple months ago, he went out to his wife's website where they actually have this really cool visualization of data. I think it was like for HR or something. I can't remember. It was really impressive.
Nice.
It was very impressive.
She's from dentist industry.
Dental industry.
And she needs to have good visualization of how she's going.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't have any questions, but I do have a couple of comments. First of all, of course, congratulate the MVPs and all the participants. The amount of effort that this required and the terrific result that you obtained from it is terrific, and it's a great reference out there for the community. So congratulations for that. And just a quick comment, I was not aware of where the inception of the idea came from. So listening to Derek and his requirement on how that idea eventually materialized to what everyone built. So it's very interesting, as someone was mentioning at the start of the meeting, that human element and how that gets connected to all these routine activities that we tend to do on a daily basis, and you can actually see that in place and how that is going to get used, and it's just very, very interesting. So just want to mention that, and it's great to see where the idea came from and how it's going to be used. So awesome.
Yeah. And by the way, Fernando, you're welcome to join the team if you care to in the future.
I'll be.
I know you're a busy man like everyone else.
I'll be collaborating as much as I can. Absolutely.
I mean, you're another very talented developer, and I think you bring the other reason it would be cool, I think, to have you is your perspective on the services piece, because Acumatica, most people on the call don't know this, but we bought your company and incorporated it into Acumatica, the services the service module that we have, right? Am I correct?
Well, I was part of the company. It wasn't my company.
But it wasn't your company,
right.
but you were.
I have some. Yeah, I have some background on the field services regions, and it'd be interesting to see if there is an area there in which this application can be, integrated with.
Yeah, there was one individual at the meeting. He had like 21 different ideas written down for you guys.
Brian Stevens. Brian Stevens. I wish he was on the call right now.
Yeah, he had a conflict, unfortunately.
Well, we need to review that list to make sure that we at least talk about all.
Well, we recorded the session, and what I'm going to do, by the way, as we're getting close to calling out, I'll let. But before we do, I'll provide. What I do is I wrap this. Of course, I edit this, and then I publish it on YouTube, and then I embed it in a blog, and I'll have a little introduction, but I'll also have links. What I'll do is I'll use this as a mechanism actually to publish the session we had, because and as you're listening to this, you'll know from the blog, eventually when this gets published, that there'll be a link to the actual session, and you'll be able to see Stefan, demonstrate all the coding stuff as well, and get more information and background that we've spoke about. And there was no reason to repeat that. And again, this is a forum for discussion. We weren't going to do any presentations per se, even though I showed a couple slides and Harsha did as well. But that was kind of organic, last minute. It wasn't really planned. But I will have links to the articles that we wrote originally, the session we did, and of course the link to the actual project, the README, and everything else, so people can have. So you'll see that when this gets published. So just letting everyone know, if you happen to read this or you're wondering about that, I'll have all the links as part of the post. So before I say goodbye and thank everyone, is there anyone else that's not on the team that had a comment or any questions?
Well, I'm on the team. I did want to say something else. Go ahead, Gerhard.
Sorry, Robert. Yeah, Mark, from our side as well, we actually had a discussion with Stefan, I think probably about a month or two ago. We actually have a client in the surveys thing that, at the moment they need to look at, Survey Monkey for the formula calculations. But I mean, we actually have a discussion, said, let's definitely watch this space in the next few months in order to resolve that. I think also from the application and the perspective, and the possibilities that it can do is, from having a business process management background, a lot of the times you have these non-ERP discussions or processes that needs to follow through in order to then that would transpire into ERP transactions. So I think definitely one of the applications that one can look at is that non-ERP discussions or screens is built on the system, processed through the workflow mechanisms, and in fact that would actually transpire into transactions within the system. So that's definitely one of the applications that will be interested to watch.
Yeah, great.
I like it. I like that idea. Yeah, and we've had similar thoughts, but we didn't think about doing it through Workflow Engine. I think that's a really good insight. We'll give that consideration.
Yeah. Let me know. I can definitely add or comment on a few things on that if you guys want to look at that. So more than happy to assist on that side.
Yep.
Thank you.
So Robert, you were going to say something before.
Yuri had shared that during that beginning phase, the phase one, that he spent a whole weekend straight writing code. I remember that first week was intense. Like we knew the urgency and we had daily meetings with it. I was actually on vacation that first week and couldn't really go anywhere. I ended up, I'm an avid hiker. So like I just got up at like 6 a.m., did a hike, mad dash, and I'd be back for like the 2 o'clock meeting. And then I just worked straight through the evening at that point. But I remember that first week. It was like hackathon marathon sort of thing going on, where we were just working nonstop to get this done.
It was a survey-ton.
It was a survey-ton.
Yeah. Actually, it kind of matches the description of some hackathon projects where the team would like to continue working on the project. So it started kind of like a hackathon, but it's continued. It's been growing.
Continued over to more because they got excited. So
yeah.
Sorry, I had to duck out for a second. I forgot to plug in my laptop, and it was gonna die on me, so I had to duck out and plug it in under my desk. Sorry about that.
It's all good. And the hug that I got from Derek at Summit 2 was a highlight as well. I very much enjoyed that.
I'm a hugger.
I'm a hugger as well. So
I want my hug on the next summit. So I'll be there.
He owes you.
I'll be there to collect.
Okay.
I'll buy you a beer while I'm at Summit too.
I'm a coffee drinker, not a beer drinker.
I can take that one.
Okay, all right.
I'll drink Stefan's beer.
Okay, there we go. Always a way to manage.
All right. Well, since we've gone over an hour by about 18 minutes, of course, some of this will be edited, at least the beginning. So it'll be hopefully maybe an hour and 10 minutes or so. But I appreciate everyone joining the call, especially the team members. Again, all the hard work that went into this is not only appreciated by Derek and others, but I really have enjoyed this for myself to get me back into managing kind of a developer project and be involved with each of you on the meetings and trying to drive this has been very it can be challenging, but at the same time it was very rewarding for me, and I've learned a lot myself, even though I'm not actively coding and so forth. Through osmosis, I've learned quite a bit, and I appreciate everyone's dedication, sacrifices made for this project, and I just want to again thank you for your contributions and your hard work. So well done. Thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, I bid everyone a goodbye, and till next time, we'll have another Coffee and Code. Please join us. Take care and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
See you, everyone.
See you.
Bye-bye.